Hi, guys. Welcome back to Choose Love Anyway, episode 9. I'm Dina,
And I'm Dalia.
and today we're going to talk about all things faith. So, we're going to talk about our faith journeys a little bit. We also realize we haven't done a great job of giving you guys life updates, and we are thinking we want to do more of that if there is a season 2. But today's episode, we are definitely going to give some life updates because it's very applicable to the episode and just our relationship with faith, how we practice faith, what we do on a daily basis, moment to moment, to have faith, and what faith means to us personally as individuals, and some of the similarities, differences that we have in our faith journeys and in those practices. So, we also want to say that this is our second to last episode, and we'll talk more about it as we wrap up this episode, what episode 10 and our final episode is going to look like and what we want to do for that. But yeah, it's kind of bittersweet. We have a lot of things going on in our lives. So we are going to wrap the season up with 10 episodes, and we're just super excited and super grateful that we've had the chance to do this together as sisters. And Dalia, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I don't think I really have anything to add to that. I think you did a beautiful job opening the episode. I'm just excited to be here and I'm looking forward to next week as well. I'm just feeling change coming. And so I think I'm feeling sentimental in some ways, but also I've been sitting with seeing how my faith has evolved and changed because of the peace that I'm feeling right now. And usually when I'm about to face change, or as I start to approach change, I usually feel way more anxious and maybe just distrusting. And so I think it's really lovely to see that I've grown and that has evolved. And I'm just trying to trust that.
I love that so much. I feel like Lacey Phillips refers to it as her trust muscle, but I definitely feel like that is so applicable to my personal life and yours. It sounds like that our trust muscle is just very strong, like the ability to have faith despite external circumstances and conditions and people. It's the ability to have faith is easier than ever, I feel like. So it's still hard, but it's easier than it's ever been because we just know the kind of the formula and how things work. Like we really trust in whatever is happening that we can't see yet.
I think it's also that, like we've talked about in the previous episodes, I think it's that I'm actually starting to trust my ability to handle whatever comes, like we talked about in the past. I know in a previous episode we talked about this, but just that, like, I believe in my ability to handle future discomforts and whatever comes next, and that we'll get through it, even if it's hard. I also think I'm starting to recognize how when things are hard, I grow and evolve from that. And so I know it's in some ways like good for me, or I think that's what part of being human is and why, you know, I believe I wanted to be a human. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. It's like part of the human experience is to grow and evolve, and part of growing and evolving is to go through hard things and hardships. And it's not saying that the only way to grow is to go through hard things, but I think it's either being in the discomfort of your own choosing or being in the discomfort of things you didn't choose and you don't really understand. But then after you get through it, you kind of see why it had to be that way, you know? Okay, so with that, if you guys remember one of the earlier episodes, we talked about Dalia looking for a house and moving. And Dalia, would you love to share with the class, with our lovely, lovely listeners, your life update as of this week?
We got a house. We're homeowners. The house that we originally put an offer on. I think I remember saying it in that episode. It's hard to believe and just have faith that there's something better than that. But down the street from that home, because we really fell in love with the area and this location, a few weeks later, maybe a week, this house came up and we felt called to this house and we did everything that we could to be able to have it. And we were just, hopeful that like if we did everything that we could and it doesn't work out, then it's not meant to be. But it's been working out and we closed on it. And so It feels really surreal. This is our first time owning a home, and it's really exciting. We have a month left here in California, and that's bittersweet. The hardest part is probably leaving the incredible people that we have here. I mean, all of our friends really feel like family to us, but there's some friends that they've helped us in raising our daughters and they've watched us change and evolve in our faith journeys. And, I love to contemplate the divine and God. And so a lot of deep relationships are built around that for me too. And so I've gotten to I guess, meet God in new ways with a lot of people here. And I mean, I became a mom here, and Derek became a dad. We became parents here, and I've gotten to mother those girls for the first 4 years of their life. So it's always going to be a sacred, special memory. But I also feel like this is where we are meant to go right now. And, I hope our chapter with Southern California is not over. But we are adventurers at heart and we want to go and explore. I do just feel so grateful for the family that I have because I know that home is wherever they are. And so we're going to make this place a home, just like we made this place a home. And, from what I hear and from what I've understood, we have incredible neighbors and community there too. And so I'm excited to meet new people there while I hope to always keep relationships with the people that I have here too. And honestly, the podcast gives me hope in that we have something that we will be putting out. And I'm hoping that that also is kind of like a thread that stays between the people that we have everywhere because we have family and friends everywhere and we love all of them. And this feels like a really beautiful way to stay in touch as well.
I love that. Well, also, you were like joking around about season 2 having Choose Love Anyway and recording twice a week and having one be like about educational stuff, kind of like we've been doing this season, where we're kind of sharing our tools much more intentionally about like choosing love anyway and what it means to us. And then you said having Choose Love Anyway after dark. Like, and I think that's actually a great idea because sometimes it gets hard to keep everybody updated on what's going on in your life. Like, you're sending voice memos to multiple people. Like, I will copy and paste my voice memos. So I'm thinking it can be like our FaceTimes with our friends and with each other. And we can just, not have a flow, but just really be catching up. Anyways, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you and Derek. I am so excited for you guys. Obviously, you have had
Thank
visitors
you.
nonstop in California last few months. I feel like all of 2026, you guys have had visitors, myself included. And I think it's amazing, but I'm sure that that has been its own challenge, not because the people who are visiting you were challenging at all, but you just have to be more aware and more alert and more considerate of other people and the people visiting you. And I think that can sometimes take a lot of energy on top
Mhm.
of also raising your girls. And then Derek was just traveling, I think, to Connecticut and Utah for the last week. So you are just superwoman over there.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much. I also wanted to say that, yes, we have hosted for literally this whole year so far as people were coming in and, like, kind of saying goodbye to California with us. But it's been really sweet making memories with them to also remember it by. And when you experience something with someone else, there's something really sweet about it because it's also a point of where you connected and created a memory together. I feel like the memory like is stronger or it just lives on with the both of us. So that's been really special and sweet. But yes, we did just have our last visitor. Shout out to Brooke and her cutest little boy crew. She's such an amazing mom to him. And he's the softest, sweetest little boy to snuggle with. And I'm just so excited to watch him grow up. But we made so many fun memories. We literally spent every single day at the beach and it was so much fun and ate delicious food. And it was just sweet because she's our childhood friend. We've known her since basically we moved to America, like shortly after. So I remember the day that we closed on our house and we were laying on the ground, like really giddy and hugged each other. And Derek wasn't there, but Brooke and I were just feeling that moment. And it reminded me of being kids with her and having other memories, like experiencing different things together as we were kids. And now we're 30-year-olds and we're experiencing this
It's
together.
so
Oh my gosh, I'm getting
cute.
emotional. And we're moms and life isn't always easy, but it's really beautiful. I just feel so lucky. Yeah, and I feel really, really blessed. And there's a part of me that didn't want to share about the house because I didn't want to be like, look what I have when there's a lot of things that are going on. in people's lives and around the world that are not this, and I never wanna come off like I'm I don't
Like, you're
know,
not
but, like, I
humble?
also
I
yeah,
don't think you're coming
yeah.
off that way at all.
But I also know that, like, this is something we've worked really hard for, and it hasn't been just something that just, like, fell into our lap, and also that Derek works really, really hard, and yeah, just this is the reality of our life right now, and I'm so grateful for it. And the last year was really hard as far as parenting goes and all these other things, so it's fun to celebrate things that do feel light and exciting.
I love that so much, you're gonna make me emotional. I, do feel like you guys have been so faithful in your journey also, not just with the house, but with Derek's job, knowing the direction you want to go and having faith in that direction that you're meant to go that way, even when doors are shut and you're redirected. You have stayed so faithful and so not even determined, but you've stuck to this knowing that you're meant to go abroad and you know the steps to go abroad are to move closer to headquarters, which is New York. And I feel like you guys have been so faithful in that and so consistent and so persistent, but not from this like doggy paddling, trying to play God, trying to have control sort of way. You've been so elegant through it. And Derek obviously isn't here, but I hope he hears this. He's one of my favorite people, and he is one of the best examples of faith and is such an example to me of what I want in a husband, not in a weird way, but just like this caregiver that's taking care of his family, not just financially, but also in the little things like the dishes and bedtime and all of these other things, like really showing up in every aspect. And I think carrying the weight of looking for a house, knowing you have a new job, knowing you're going to have to move your whole family across the country, like that is so admirable. And it takes a real
Um,
man to do that. I think a lot of people would get freaked out by that and really not be able to stay so calm and collected and so faithful like Derek did. I just admire the way that you guys have done this together, especially having the girls, having the visitors. And you guys have just been so faithful through it all. So I would just like to ask, what do you think is the number one thing that helps you and has helped you be so faithful and so elegant in your surrender, I guess, in this whole process?
Thank you so much. I often am hard on myself, but then I listen to the way that you witness me, and it's really sweet for my soul. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm always so thankful for the way that you see me because it's just so pure and so sweet. And it always lifts me up. So thank you for saying that and for sharing that. But to answer your question, I think that it's been such a journey for me, like faith in general, because I think that in some ways I've always been an optimist. I think I kind of was born that way. And mom talks about how I was as a kid. And when um, I even think about myself, I think I always have wanted to believe in, things working out. And in the face of our life not being perfect in some ways or things being hard, I think I wanted to believe that one day, like fairy tales have always been so appealing to me only because I think it just gave me hope. And even if it was unrealistic, I think it did something to my brain, which I actually would like to share that in a little bit too, about what hope and faith does to our actual brain, like the science behind it. That it's not just a spiritual practice, it's also doing something to our brain to help us live healthier, longer lives and more fulfilling lives. Before I had the words of faith, I think that I would say optimism was the thing or just hope. I think that you and I maybe have shared that to some degree of being dreamers. But
Mhm.
then I think the words of faith and religion and all of that kind of found me when I was in my late teen years. And then I actually devoted myself to a faith when I was 19, which we can talk about in the future and hopefully we can get into in season two. It's more of a personal thing. And I think that I never want to offend anyone in their faith. And so I think that over the last 10, 11 years, my faith has just evolved a lot. And I think that there was a time where my faith looked like trying to do all the things so things would work out and thinking that if I pleased God enough, that then I would be blessed or things would be okay. And then I think it naturally, the more that I understood love and the more that I actually, maybe just understood God in a new way, I feel like it evolved and has been evolving the last few years, especially since I've had my daughters, because I think I felt a love of a parent, which I often feel that that is how God's love feels. And there is really nothing that they could do that could stop my love. And I think if I can experience that on a human level, then I can't even imagine a divine being who isn't limited by a human body, what that looks like. I don't even think I can fully understand in my human being the gravity of that love. And so then I think if you believe that that type of love exists, I think it's so much easier to have faith. And my faith is no longer dependent on how I act or what I do. It's more so just trusting that there's an inherent goodness to everybody and that the love of God is constantly holding us. And so then if that's true, then even when life is hard, that love is still there and we can get through those hard things. And so then there's nothing that we can't get through, I think is where I'm at now.
I love that. That's beautiful. I think that that is such a beautiful concept of God loving us the way that you love your children. I think I was telling you earlier, I don't really know what that love is like. I feel like everybody always posts that they didn't know love like this existed. And I'm like, well, how does it compare to your romantic love? This is just non-negotiable. Like, it's there and it's the greatest, deepest, most devoted love. And I think sometimes being devoted to something higher than yourself is also like, to be devoted to something is to be unwavering in it, is how I see it. And so, like, there's nothing that can shake you and shake your faith. And so I think being devoted to trusting a higher power, knowing that whether it's God, the universe, your highest self, whatever you believe in, a divine source is always there to guide you and make sure you're taken care of, and trusting in that is what faith is to me, at least. And it's kind of what you're describing, I feel like, just this peace in knowing that you are that loved by something and someone, and that no matter what it looks like, as long as you hold on to that, everything will work out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that I've watched that transform so much of my existence. And I think surrendering has become easier and almost something I don't even think about anymore because I just trust and don't feel like I need to keep doing something. And that doesn't mean that I'm not an active participator and an agent in my life and, actively pursuing whatever it is that I feel called to do. But it's no longer coming from this place of lacking something and wanting to earn safety and security because, yes, that comes from just healing some childhood trauma, but I also think that's also changing the way you see God.
Just want to go off of that because I had this thought that when you talk about surrender and being an active participant, I think for a long time I didn't understand what that meant. Like, how much is doing too much? Where is the line between action and trying to have control? I think that the surrender you're talking about now that comes so naturally is acting without being attached to an outcome. Like, acting because your soul feels called to do something. It feels this pull towards something that you can't really explain, but you know that you're meant to have it, and you know that the desire is there because you're meant to have it, and that you wouldn't have any type of desire unless you were meant to have that thing. And trusting in that and doing what you can to honor that desire, but trying to get the outcome of that desire, if that makes sense. So if I have a desire for being in love and getting married, it's like I can actively go out and spend time with my friends and get dressed up, go have a fun night. But my outcome or like my goal in going out isn't to find my husband that night. It's just knowing that my soul is lit up by spending time with my friends. If somebody invites me and my soul kind of like my body gets excited to go out, it's like I can honor that. But if my body was feeling drained and was like, no, that doesn't sound fun, or somebody invited me that I didn't want to spend time with, my body now can recognize those things. And it's like following those cues and being like,
Mhm.
nope, I don't think I'm meant to go there. And so it's like acting on both your intuition, plus your desires, and then also not being attached to an outcome of whatever you do so that you can stay in that present moment. Because I think when we get so attached to an outcome, we get so fixated that we're not even in the present moment anymore. We're just like, if I don't meet my husband out tonight, then the night was a waste. It's like that is totally a past
Yeah.
version of myself. And not just in this scenario, but like in everything in life, like even applying to school or friends or workouts, whatever it is just I want to have a good time and I want to honor my soul and my soul desires. I want to honor my own needs, my intuition without trying to play God and being and knowing exactly where it's going to lead me, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's so powerful and really inspiring that that's how you're approaching this, but I think what you're describing is those moments you have faith that you trusting your intuition, which is, I believe, the divine within us. It's a divine birthright, and if you're listening to that, you're having faith that listening to this inside of me and trusting this feeling that that's the thing that I'm supposed to do for myself, and that the outcome will be wonderful because I had faith that that was the right thing to do versus like having FOMO and being like, oh man, did I make the right decision? Do you know what I mean? Like second guessing
Mhm.
yourself. I think you're now in a place of faith where you trust yourself, which is so fascinating because as we're talking about this, I'm like, I guess our faith has evolved. And if there's layers of faith, then we've like reached a new level where self trust propels our faith forward.
Love that. Yeah, it's so true. And I think it's also knowing what alignment feels like for you. And I know that we have briefly touched on this, and I just want to mention it. The Align app or your human design has absolutely helped me with that. I'm a generator. So for me, excitement is my alignment. And one of the biggest, best ways that I have learned to have faith is in how to move through the world and who I should be and shouldn't be friends with, or like what I should and shouldn't be doing. And it's not even in a mean way. It's just like what excites me and what lights me up and who excites me and who lights me up is where I know I'm meant to be. And that's what will take me to those desires. And I have such a deep trust in knowing in that because I've seen that when I honor that feeling time and time again, it always leads me to things like so much better than I imagine. But if I ignore that feeling and I convince myself, no, you should still go. And like you said, FOMO or just my ego wants to be there, but my body's like telling me no. And I'll ignore my
Yes.
body and I'm like, no, but the ego wants like, let's go play. It's like, okay, well, every time I've done that, it's always been such a poor outcome. And I feel even that is divine because it's like God trying to teach me, like, hey, that feeling you felt in the beginning that something didn't add up, like honor that next time. And I think I'm at a place where I'm honoring both now, both like the feeling that I can't explain, that I wish I didn't feel that way, and having to say no because it's so hard to say no sometimes. Honestly, it's really hard to say no. Like to let the ego just die and have FOMO is like so sad sometimes. But I realized that like that's part of that willpower I was talking about in another episode. It's like, no,
Mhm.
we're just going to suffer. And it doesn't mean that you're out of alignment. It's a different type of suffering. Like, yes, it's
Mm.
not always exciting to say no, but my body feels lit up even if my ego doesn't. You know what I mean? Whereas, like,
Yeah.
if something excites me, my body and my ego are kind of lit up. So, anyways, I hope that all makes sense.
Yes, it does. I think, yeah, if you are curious about the things Gina is saying, I think it'd be really great to try out the Align app, even for just a month, and just see and learn about your human design. You do need to know the time that you were born, but it has helped us so much. And just go see if it speaks to you, if it calls to you, if you feel seen within it. Just trust that feeling. And maybe it offers you something that you have been curious about or that you have needed validation about, because I don't think any of the things that you probably really will read about yourself will be surprising to you. If anything, it'll be validating to you. And it might validate parts of you that you've suppressed in order to maybe fit in or be like others. And you'll see why maybe that isn't working for you.
Yeah, and I feel like I have done it for all of my friends, and it has helped them make decisions now, and it's so cool to see as they evolve and they grow their trust muscle, they will literally quote things that are according to their human design without
That's
trying to quote the line app. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, excitement is your alignment." That's because a lot of my friends are generators too, so it's super fun to watch that.
that's so fun. I love that. Okay, well, I feel like just because you started talking about the ego and a little bit of like maybe what's happening in our mind, I kind of wanted to take this moment to talk about the neuroscience psychology of faith. Would you agree that the opposite of fear is faith?
Yes, and
Okay,
love.
and love. Yes, I agree. So a simple way to explain it would be like when you are afraid and your brain feels threatened or you feel threatened, there's like a built in, which we've referenced this in the co regulation episode. It's the built in threat detection system called the amygdala. And when we believe that things will go wrong, the future is unsafe, change means danger, the amygdala activates stress hormones. And something that you might see is your cortisol will go up naturally just because those stress hormones have been activated. So that can lead to anxiety, rumination, and worst case thinking. Our brains are actually wired to look for danger. So, like we've talked about in previous episodes, that is something we're already naturally doing. We're wired to find safety and protection. But if we are able to bring ourselves back to the present, like you were talking about earlier, which then activates our prefrontal cortex, we are then able to think more creatively. We can problem solve and we can regulate our emotions better. So, optimism also activates the brain's reward system. So, that will release dopamine, which increases motivation and resilience, which is so cool. I know all of these things and it's so validating because I actually feel that in my body. Like, do you feel that in your body when you start to shift the way that you're thinking?
Absolutely. Like, I think that is why also I've been, like, riding on this high of life the last 4 months. I think it's because I spent so much time trying to work on that exact thing, and then being with you was even better for it. It, like, solidified it, I feel like, and now I'm in my own world without you applying it because I realized how good it feels. Like, there is no other choice. I can't. Like, why would I not do that? You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, exactly. So I think it wouldn't be so crazy to conclude that hope and faith aren't just spiritual ideas. They're actually regulatory states for the brain. When we believe something good is still possible, our nervous system softens and we become more resilient. So faith creates resilience within us. And I think that is so cool.
That actually makes me think of my TikTok yesterday where it said you don't get the proof first in faith. You have to do the thing and then you become the proof by choosing whatever you are having faith in. Like whatever your guide, your inner guide, your intuition, God, a divine source is telling you to do, by honoring it, you become the proof of faith and of the good work, like the
Yeah.
promise, the reward.
Do you feel like faith creates meaning in your life?
Oh, 1,000%. I actually think I had this really dark thought once that I am almost scared of because I thought for a second, like, what if there was no higher power? What if there is no divine source? And like, what if every single thing in the moment is actually exactly how it is and how I think it is? That would
Mm.
be so dark. I feel like it makes me really wanna cry and not exist in this world. I feel like what you were talking
Really?
about, the magic and, like, this fairy tale, it's like that is what faith is to me. It's like literally anything is possible. Like if my fairy godmother can turn this pumpkin into a beautiful, beautiful carriage. Like that is exactly what faith is to me, but we are the fairy godmother and God. Like, us and
Yeah,
God are
we're
just out
co-creating.
here. Yes, and
Yeah, we're co-creating.
it's so beautiful. My gosh, it's
I really appreciate that you're saying that because I think that's why I was always fascinated as a kid about the Holocaust and like when people would go through really hard things and how, some people believe, oh, God did this to me because I wasn't good. And then some people, I've read a lot of books and one of my favorite psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust. His name is Viktor Frankl. And he studied, the suffering that happened there. And he also noticed something in the people around him and the people that made it through. And he discovered that people who believe their lives have meaning are more resilient in the face of hardship. And he famously says this quote that those who have a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Viktor Frankl shared this message in his writing and in his discoveries that faith helps people feel that life is coherent and purposeful, which protects against despair. And to get through something terrible and awful in life, despair is not going to help you. And it would be so hard for me not to go to that place when you're going through something awful. But I think it's so beautiful to believe that there's meaning. And like you said, if you really fell into that dark spot, I think even if it's me not actually accepting reality as it is, I think it's empowering to know that from a scientific standpoint, you are better off believing in the goodness, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. What you're saying right now about despair actually makes me think of a Kabbalah teaching that I studied. It's something that has strengthened my faith and my beliefs in Christianity and in my spiritual work. And I think you and I were talking about this earlier before we started recording, just how, yeah, I read the Bible now every day, but then I also do my gratitude journal and I say my prayers or I journal. I do my subconscious rewiring work. I also, um, have studied Kabbalah and I look at my co-star, I look at the pattern app, I look at the Align app. I don't think you have to be tied down to one single thing. I think that to me, I believe in a God that has given us all of these tools and that God, the universe, they're one and that we are part of that one. And that, so I say this because I just want people, maybe it's my own insecurities that feel the need to share this, that I do believe in the nuance that you can do all of those things. I don't think that if you're Christian, you can't believe in astrology. And I think there are a lot of beliefs about that, like tarot card readings or spiritual practices. And I just want to say, I do not believe in that. And I'm okay saying that. I believe in all of it. And I think they are tools. And just like religion or anything else, everything has the ability to be abused. And it's just up to us to be responsible with those things and use it for good because I think they're here for a reason. And it's just how we choose to see it. And I just felt like I needed to share that. But in Kabbalah, they believe that nothing can be done to you here on earth that you didn't agree to before you came here. And I think for me personally, going through a lot of the things that I did in the last few years, especially, that has given me so much comfort, but then also, like, we didn't have the easiest upbringing. We definitely have gone through hardships where we could be in despair, where we could have given into this mentality of why me and kind of like taken all the bad things that have happened to us as a sign that we are bad. And I just am so grateful that we didn't and that we kept going and we kind of used our pain for purpose, earth. And I feel like that really helped me lean into also this podcast and choosing love anyway. And like, okay, I was meant to go through this so that I can advocate for other people to also be able to get through this and to help people be patient in their suffering, to find the joy in their suffering, and to also hold the nuance of that, that you can be going through a really hard time and you can still find joy in going on a walk outside and looking up at the trees and being so grateful for you being alive and seeing a sunset and a sunrise and allowing yourself to feel the joy of that, even if your heart is breaking, you know? Cry out there, but also recognize that two truths can exist, that you can be deeply sad, deeply hurt, and deeply in pain and still be so loved by a God and still be on your way to things that you could never even imagine in this moment because they're so great that our human minds can't even envision them. And so I like to play this
Yeah.
game that whatever I believe is the best case scenario of an outcome, I now know with all of me because again, like I've practiced it so much and seen it really come to life every time so much better than what I imagined. Like I just know, I know it's going to be better. And it's so exciting because I'm like, wow, I have a pretty great imagination. Like I am creating a law out here. I'm like, okay, well, if this is my best, God's best is even better. And it always has been. And I think it also goes back to your house. And it also goes to so many things like in our lives individually and together, even our relationship, we ask
Yeah.
for the bare minimum, but God's ready to give us so much more than that.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I wanted to share in response to something that you said earlier too. I think what you were describing is an expansive God and a God that is just everywhere. And so then you're looking for God everywhere. You're open to seeing God touch you through all these different faith traditions and spiritual practices and all the different types of modalities out there. And I think that's also the God I believe in. I feel that these truths and these messages find me in so many different ways. Sometimes it's through people, sometimes it's through a book, and sometimes it's a podcast, but oftentimes it's not just scripture where I do feel God too. But I think that the reason that survivors of the Holocaust inspired me so much was because if they could get through that by believing in the light at the end of the tunnel or just believing that somehow they would get through it, then you can apply that to your own life, right? Because we only know the pain that we have experienced, right? Wouldn't it be fair to compare? And I was not at all trying to say our pain is to be diminished by the experience of Viktor Frankl or whatever. That wasn't at all, but I think it can be inspiring and add to our lives. And when we're going through hard times, of knowing that others found a way through by actually having faith. And that's how powerful faith is. And that's just deeply moving and inspiring to me. So I appreciate you sharing that too. I know we were talking about surrender too. I think for me, surrender and with this new change coming, like moving and all of that, I think surrender looks to me now like accepting that I don't have the answers to some questions and that things will not be revealed right away. And actually, I think that's the contemplation of God that I really enjoy in my life is asking questions and, meditating on these things and having discussions about it and studying the word of God and then also hearing how the people I love and even meet in different settings what their relationship to the divinity is and how they experience it. And I'm becoming more okay with not knowing. And so then that feels like a freedom in its own. And it reminds me of this poem by Rainer Maria Rilke. And do you mind if I share it?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so it's from Letters to a Young Poet. And it says, be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms and like books written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given to you, because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. There's something so comforting about those words to me, and that faith is not knowing the answer and to just live in all of it and just experience it all and the change that's coming and the questions or I guess answers that will be revealed over time that, yeah, I guess I have a lot of faith that I need to know what I need to know right now
I
and
agree.
the rest will come.
I love that. I really do think that having faith is just honoring your highest self and knowing that the best you can do and where you should where the line is between control and faith and acting is just honoring your own needs and your boundaries, your alignment and your highest self and sort of like watching yourself and your life as if it were a movie is a really great example I love to use for my life. If I were watching my own movie, what would I be advocating for myself to do in that moment? And what does that look like?
As we're both facing these different changes, I mean, you didn't say, but you're possibly going to start school and we can maybe touch on that in the next episode. But there's a lot of changes coming. And I think in the past, maybe we would have led with more fear, but we're really pleasantly surprised by ourselves and that we are now in this state where that doesn't seem to be the knee jerk reaction for us. And I just want to say that I'm proud of us for that. And we hope that we can inspire you in that because it is not how we've always been. And we grew up with a lot of uncertainty. And so then that made it so that we wanted to control a lot because that meant that we would be safe. And I think that as we close up this episode, I prepared a little couple words to just kind of wrap up the theme of what we've talked about. Um, and yeah, is it okay if I share it right now?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So fear tries to convince us that the unknown is dangerous, but every meaningful chapter of our lives began in the unknown. Maybe surrender isn't about giving up control. Maybe it's about trusting that the unfolding of our lives may be wiser than our fear. And I just want to repeat that last part because I feel like it's the whole theme of this episode. But it's that maybe it's about trusting that the unfolding of our lives may be wiser than our fear. And I think that you could say that the unfolding of your life is also God or the divine thread, the sacred thread of it all, that might be wiser than your fear. And it's okay to trust that. And actually, what we learn and what we know, and you can do your own research too, but scientifically, that's also very, very supported. So even if, God feels too big and too out there for you and hard to kind of grasp, it's also scientifically proven that this would help too. So thank you for going along with this episode with us, for sticking around. I know we were just in our own little flow. And so we kind of bopped around a little, but that's what we felt like we needed to do tonight. And we're grateful you came along for the ride. So we hope that you'll send us some questions for our next episode. We're going to do episodes on and about relationships in our lives. And so if you have any questions that you want us to cover in that or answer in that, we would love for you to send them over. We'll record next week so you have a little bit of time, and Dina will post about it too to just like give you a chance to do it on Instagram or whatnot. I don't know if you wanted to say anything else to close.
Yes, please send in your questions about relationships. We are so excited, bittersweet to be having our last episode next week. And yeah, I think I'm just mostly excited. Like, I'm really excited for this phase of your life, my life. And I'm obviously really excited to live closer together.
Yeah, I am too. It's going to be really special. And I can't wait for all the memories.
Thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with us. And thank you, Dalia, for leading this episode and just your wisdom that you always bless us with every time.
You're so sweet.
Bye.